What a situation! To stop the young man from harassing the two young women sitting across the aisle from Ben and him, one of them sits near the window and has a headset on, and the other near the aisle with a book in her hands. Frank only said a few words to him. They were sufficiently harsh and provocative, however, to antagonize the troublemaker and make him want to have a fight with Frank at the next stop. "Let's stay on the bus when it comes to that little town called Cucamonga," Ben says to Frank. "That way we can avoid getting into any trouble." "I'm not going to be intimidated by him," Frank answers. "I'm not going to do anything I wouldn't do if he weren't on the bus." At this point, a young woman who is occupying the two seats in front of Frank and Ben and was stretched out and sleeping earlier on, and even, strangely enough, snoring with her mouth open, sits up suddenly and says to herself, "Men, they're such fools." At the very same time, the young woman who is reading a book and who is sitting immediately across the aisle from the boys says to Frank, "Please don't get into any trouble for our sakes. It was kind of you to intervene, but I don't think this silly incident should lead to anyone getting hurt." "My goddess, it takes a woman to talk some sense," exclaims the young woman sitting in front of Frank and Ben. She then stands up, and after glancing sternly at the two boys, vigorously starts brushing something off her seat. "She's right," says Ben. "We shouldn't make things worse. If we get into a fight with that guy and his friend at the next stop, there's a good chance we won't be able to get back on the bus." Before Frank can give the matter another thought, the bus driver announces over the loudspeaker, "We're now entering Cucamonga, home of the great mosquito. We'll have a 15-minute stop. There's an A&W on your left. Please be back on the bus on time. If you're not, you risk getting left behind." "Only 15 minutes, Ben says to Frank. "We don't need to get off. We can wait till the next stop before we get something to drink." "And what happens then?" says Frank. "Are we going to stay on the bus a second time if that guy still wants to fight me? And then what about the third and fourth stops? No, if you let yourself be intimidated once, it's going to happen again, and then you're going to make it a habit." "It's not a question of being intimidated, young man," the young woman says, who is now busy brushing potato chips off the front of her sweater. "It's a question of using your little noggin." With her strange-looking glasses and her short hair clipped squarely around her chubby face, she looks like someone who spends all her Friday and Saturday nights in front of a computer. However, her confidence and poise are in sharp contrast to her physical appearance. Looking squarely at Frank and Ben through her thick lens, which magnify her eyes and make her look like an owl, she says to them, "I'll help you out of this mess if you let me. My name is Carlotta Hardbottom. I am a radical feminist, and I also happen to be an expert at deflating men's egos. I can do this no matter how big they may be. Believe me, those fools at the back of the bus won't know what hit them if they tangle with me. I'm adept at, for I've taken no less than 77 university courses on the subject, all sorts of means and methods that are guaranteed to stun the meager intelligence of men and leave them helpless and silent before their female opponent, bereft of confidence, courage, and conviction. Frank and Ben don't know what to say. They are a bit stunned by this, and as it seems, are suddenly bereft of confidence, courage, and conviction. At the same time, the two young women sitting across the aisle from the two boys stare in awe and admiration at this odd-looking but tremendously empowered feminist.